do it. All right, so we are in the midst of National Newspaper Week, which comes at a time where journalism is really changing. And we've seen local newspapers around the country, especially here in Rhode Island, you can see it acutely just simply going out of business. We see a lot of conglomerates tightening their purse strings when it comes to journalism, both in the corporate sector and the nonprofit sector and the independent sector. It is what it is, but one newspaper that has sustained through all of this and is actually expanding is Newport This Week. So I suppose we will do the honorary thing in here and have our guests introduce themselves because they're the person behind Newport This Week. Good morning, Lynne.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, everybody who will be watching this. It's really a pleasure every week to produce Newport This Week and know that we're bringing vital news to residents and visitors to understand the community more, things like our stormwater mitigation and what's happening in council meetings and school issues and things like that. But then also the lighter side of things, lifestyle things like Rough Point is right behind you there, how they're working on revitalizing their programs there, which is really important. So we've really been able to grow the circulation over the years, which is really exciting. We have drivers who go out to almost 300 locations on Thursday afternoon once the paper is printed. And that's getting a lot of news out there for folks. Yeah, our circulation is right around 17,000 this time of year, which is a lot. And we really have our advertisers to thank for all of this. Newport This Week is free. A lot of publications don't have the luxury to do that, but because the local businesses, restaurants, organizations believe in the fact that news is important and for the news to be free for everyone to enjoy, that they support us, and we really thank them for all of that. And anyone who's listening or reads the paper, try to patronize those advertisers, and if you have the opportunity to say thank you, I'm here because you're in Newport This Week, is really a great way to keep the cycle going.
Right, and it is just that too. It's a cycle. A lot of people try to distance themselves from sponsorship or advertising on the journalism side, but in the case of Newport This Week, or a sustainable publication, it's a cycle. The advertiser supports the paper, and then the paper, by virtue of having wide circulation and long time readers, supports the businesses. So it's this nice ecosystem that is very organic and essential to civic engagement and awareness, and just like you said, even on the lighter stuff, telling the stories that make Newport what it is.
That's right. I mean, we're really fortunate here at Newport This Week to have some very dedicated news reporters who attend meetings in person or virtually. They watch them online, and some of those meetings can be hours long, and try to synthesize the important points and write it up in a readable way for people to understand what's occurring. And so I think that's part of Newport This Week's success, is the whole team. And then I think, Newport This Week is 50 years old in 2024. And it has gone from just in print, as you see above me, but online. We've really worked hard to have a good readable website, an easily navigatable website, and then to expand that even further to have a evening newsletter type of thing that goes out. because the city and town of Middletown are always putting out other announcements that don't line up for our print schedule. So we have a way to reach out to people who wish to get even more than beyond the paper.
Right.
And then of course there's adding video and the podcast with you too, Bill.
Which
That
I enjoy doing very much, and it's great to get the feedback from folks that are excited about the trajectory of news and understanding that, look, it's what was happening in the 90s when video was exclusive to television. It's just not the case anymore. And you see it, whether it's the New York Times or Washington Post or Newport This Week. It's a multimedia format, and it's great that Newport This Week has been able to be a leader in that space in our community.
Well, it is a pleasure to do. It really is. And the community involvement also of the paper. You have this week's front page up there, and the little icon up there, Broadway, the Broadway where the locals are. The paper is very involved in the Broadway Street Fair coming up. And again, I think many newspapers across the country do try to engage their readers and their community with events and activities. And the Broadway Street Fair is one that I think Newport This Week and everyone here can be very proud of.
Absolutely. So the government watchdog component of news is when you hear people talk about the challenges of local news today, and the idea that local newspapers, even radio, television, whatever the case is, but especially in the hyper local community oriented newspapers, as they go away, so too does a significant amount of oversight that is critical. And talk about that, the importance of, I mean, you find news deserts now all over the country in places where the closest outlet is hundreds of miles away. And you mentioned you have reporters watching these hours-long council, school committee, zoning, you name it, type meetings and synthesizing it. Why is that so important? I mean, this is like a question that I certainly know the answer to, but for the listeners, why is it so important that that institution, the Fourth Estate, be supported at the hyper local level?
Well, I think that we're here on Aquidneck Island, Newport, we're really fortunate. And this is National Newspaper Week, so I'm actually going to give a nod to the Daily News. They've been in our community for 100 years, and granted, they have been purchased by one of the largest news owners, Gannett, in the country, but they're still here, and that's really important to mention. And then also East Bay newspapers, who I had purchased Newport This Week from, also has the Portsmouth Times. And to think that on our small little island, there's those three options, plus the Providence Journal. And we're really very lucky with that. Newport This Week can't be everywhere and manage every single story. So it's great to know that the Daily News is out there. The Providence Journal is out there. What makes us different, though, is we are totally independent and we're free. And in many communities that are experiencing these news deserts, they're looking towards a nonprofit model, which is something that we're exploring also in order to maybe even increase more of our writing and reporting capability.
Right. And with that comes the opportunity for grants, and some news outlets are almost entirely sustained by grants or listener support. So if you couple that with advertisers, all of a sudden you can see a future that is possibly way longer than anybody could imagine when they talk about local newspapers, because it's usually doom and gloom when that conversation comes up.
Well, I think Newport is a very optimistic community, and each week try to approach it with an optimistic outlook, like we are going to get this paper out.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes till in the wee hours of the night, but it's there.
There's, in addition to the government oversight, which is ultra critical, and Newport This Week does a great job with, there's also the storytelling component of the community, whether it's, an individual, an organization, something happening in the schools, arts coverage, even local sports to a certain extent. I know we talked about the beach volleyball league, even the amateur beach volleyball league a couple of months ago. Telling the stories of the community, that provides a contemporary narrative that helps inform the public, but it puts it on the record for generations to come. Now, I don't know how many people are going to go through microfilm to find out, about the the Broadway Street Fair in 500 years, but they could, and that's super important as well.
Well, it's really interesting with the website capability, the way technology has changed. So if you go to newportthisweek.com, our website, up in the upper corner, you could literally put in beach volleyball in the search there, and that article will come up. Or years ago, when the city was working on obtaining the infamous new fire department moose boat for rescue, you can put in something like that and go back and read things that happened years ago. As I was saying, I've owned the paper for 13 years, and our search capability on our website is at about 10 years right now, because we have to upload the former ones and all of that technology. But it's great to have. And also all of the past owners of Newport This Week, I've had the pleasure to know. And there is literally still a paper archive of every single paper that has been printed for Newport This Week. They've been bound into books, and occasionally, I go digging around, looking in the 1980s and 1990s for an article. Lizette Prince is one of the former owners and still quite active in the community, and she'll say, "Lynn, I think there was an article. We need to go back and find that." And lo and behold, it is great to still have all those copies.
There's also a critical piece that is kind of unique to newspapers. I guess you can make an argument that talk radio or even social media is as clumsy as it can be sometimes in social media. It's there, but it's in written form. Letters to the editor, the community interaction component of Newport This Week. Why is that important for you to maintain a vibrant letter to the editor type of ecosystem inside the paper?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Last week we had 7 letters, and it was talking about the Middletown school bond and different issues. It's so important that people feel that they do have the opportunity to voice their opinions. And because of space in the paper, like many papers, we do have a word limit of 500 for print, but people can also submit their opinion online to letters to the editor, and they can be longer. Of course, so, we do, especially for online, we do still look for appropriate language, making sure that there's no accusatory types of things going on there. And that's something that is, difficult and really takes a lot of time also to watch with the social media, with Facebook. We're not really into Twitter that much. Some Instagram, but the team JK others works very hard to monitor the Facebook and make sure that everybody's being respectful. And that's important in today's world, is to be respectful.
It really is, because that's where it becomes sewer-esque and you end up in way off track, and it just becomes highly negative and unproductive. And that's what the beauty of the newspaper is, that it's able to be not censored, but strained, so to speak, from that type of nonsense and filtered to the point where it's on the money and it's provocative, and that interaction is productive, not just something that makes you want to go, live in the Rose Island Lighthouse by yourself for the rest of your life. Anything else you want to talk about on National Newspaper Week?
No, I just want to, again, just kind of give a shout out to our advertisers and other folks who have sent in the small donations. It's very much appreciated. And I know that our writers and columnists always enjoy when somebody sees them out and about, that they say, I really enjoy reading what's in Newport this week. And that makes us all want to do it again for the next week.
Thanks a lot, Lynn.
Thank you, Bill.